Yo, what up? It's your boy Kilslo. You know, Mr. Chi-Town's finest, a.k.a. Chi-Town Gangsters. And don't forget the whoa, whoa, whoa. And you're tuned in right now to Chicago Street TV, baby. You know how we do.
That the gang's on Pilsen. In the village, two-man the bank, yeah. This is the life of a Chi-Town gangster. In the city, if you do or die, better know cause we run the shot. Motherfuckers don't realize till they catch you between the eyes. This is life in the shot. In the city, if you do or die, better know cause we run the shot. Motherfuckers don't realize till they catch you between the eyes. This is life in the shot.
You wanna let the fans know what part of Chicago you're from?
Well, that varies because, Chi-Town, my town, man, I basically was born by Little Village. Then eventually I moved to Humble Park for a small time with my mom. And then she moved to Albany Park. And my grandma was always in Pilsen, so I was moving to Pilsen one time. And basically I've been all around, but most of the young age to about a teenage, I was in Albany Park, you know what I'm saying, Eastwood and Wilson, and then half of this life till about now has been Southside, but technically I've been living all over the city.
And for those who aren't from the neighborhood or from the city, you want to describe to them what it was like in those neighborhoods that you grew up in?
Yeah, I mean, it was young when I was in Little Village. I basically was right across the street from the county jail. My grandmother had a house there. I was living with my dad till I was about 6 years old. It was just me and him. And I don't remember too much, but I do remember the Popeyes getting built, being with my cousins. I'm an old school head. So, but I mean, being a kid in Little Village back then, it wasn't as wild and, getting as wild as it did. So all I remember from there was just good times, having fun. When I lived in Humble Park, it was the same. I went with my mom. I stayed there till about 6 to maybe 10 or something like that. And then we moved to Albany Park, by Lawrence and Kedzie, which that's when I started seeing a lot of gang activity when I was getting older, into my teenage years. My mom was a Latin queen. Lawrence and Kedzie was right there. There was Kings. You had your Future Stones. You had your Vice Lords, your Cobras and all that. So it was very versatile. The thing I liked about that neighborhood was that it was a different ethnicity. We had Puerto Ricans, whites, Cambodians, blacks, Mexicans. That was one thing I loved about growing up there, because it taught me, and my family was never like that, but it taught me how not to be prejudiced. So I've seen a lot of different families, different homes, people that I stayed with. So growing up over there was like the most of my childhood to my early 20s. That's where I stayed until I moved down to Pilsen.
And what was the years during this time?
Jesus Christ, man. To tell you the truth, man, I can't recall. I'm going to say early 90s, no, more like, like mid 80s to about to the early 2000s was all north side. And then around the 2000s, I started coming out south more. I was always traveling back and forth. My grandmother lived on 18th of May. She had a house in Pilsen. I was always there back and forth. And we all know Pilsen back in that day, Jesus Christ. I had cousins that lived in Cicero. So that's where my DJing stuff started happening. But, basically, I was seeing all types of cultures. But, the north side, because you're used to it. When you come out to the south side and you're 10, 11, 12, 13, riding the bus by yourself to see the neighborhood, walking from 18th Street train station, Blue Line, all the way to May, you're like this, in the daytime it felt beautiful. The culture, the people, I loved it. God forbid you get out that train 9 o'clock at night, it just feels like a ghost town. and back then, and it felt kind of scary walking through. And there were times we had to run for things, but I mean, that's how it kind of felt growing up in them neighborhoods.
For those that don't know, what exactly is your ethnicity?
I'm actually Mexican. I get confused a lot. People think I'm Puerto Rican for some reason, but I understand why. When I was younger and most of my years on the north side, a lot of Puerto Rican friends. So when I learned Spanish a lot, my mom didn't speak it too much to us, but when I learned to speak it, it was from my friend's house, my Puerto Rican friends. Shout out Speedo, I see ya. They'll be like, ¿qué tú eres? Yo say, Mexican. Entonces habla español, por favor, aquí estás, so I would learn that. Now, when I would go to the south side, it's a different story because it was like, hey, what's up, way, all that. So you kind of got to switch it up. And then my grandmother would always speak Spanish to me. But I would see her like every 2 weeks, something like that. And, you start getting both slangs. My Spanish was never great, but I can understand it and I can speak it somewhat real good enough. But it's nothing I would want to teach my kids because they'll learn that broken Spanish.
Do you know what part of Mexico your family's from?
Yeah, my dad was from Mexico City, actually. They came over when they were young, like almost 1 year old. Him and my aunt. What do you call it? And my mom, her whole family. We're talking about everything to my great grandmother, to her parents, and all that. Were actually descendants in Texas before it was actually Mexico. So my bloodline actually goes all the way down to that, which is I take that very strongly. Like, I'm proud of that. So before Texas was actually Texas, when it was Mexico, my family roots are from my mom's side.
Do you want to let us know when it is that you started rapping?
Music has always been in my blood. My dad and his dad before that used to be playing guitar instruments. My dad was in a band. My mom claims that's why she fell in love with him. Go figure. As I can say from my kid's mom, not. But basically, it was from my father. He played, and it just it influenced me and my cousin, and my cousin started DJing, and he's like 3 years older than me. He started DJing. He taught me. I was on the north side still, and I was listening to groups like the Beastie Boys, LL Cool J, Run DMC. I mean, I remember hearing the mixes on B96, Bad Boy Bill, all these old cats, Julian Perez, Tim Schomer. But like the rap it was just something strong about it. So I fell in love with it. I was around, I'm going to say like 9. That's when I like literally started DJing and rapping. But yeah, but it didn't take it really serious till I was about like maybe 11, 12. I ran a friend on the north side named Renegade, and we actually battled. I lost. And from then on, he taught me. He took me under his wing. It was a black guy named Renegade. And he took me under his wing and literally forced me to there used to be garage parties, and literally forced me to rap battle people. And that's how I started out at like rap battling. But between the ages of 8 and 11, that's when I started.
You made I would consider an iconic staple song to Chicago called Chi-Town Gangstas. Do you want to talk about the start of the song and how like the whole story of how the song was made?
Yeah, me and G Nut actually got together and formed a group. We got connected with Wicked Entertainment. They had Los Marihuanos, Disco, quite a few acts. We met them through Nino, Flight Man. Shout out to Nino. So we actually got with him. He brought us around. They started seeing our things. Hey, we like you. Show us an album. We cut an album in like 3 weeks. We had direct. We had disco on it. We had side effects from psychodrama on it. This is stuff that's basically unreleased. And yeah, so we rolled with them. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. So I ended up venturing on my own, and I got with my boy Tully from Vital Studios. Shout out to Tully. He DJs to this day. We made something. It didn't get there. I said, you know what, I got to feel my own feel. I started doing it myself. We were in the basement, me and my cousin. I had to make a demo for a label called Legion Records at the time. They had Do or Die. They had Rick Gilla. And Disco was actually hanging with these cats. And they were, somebody I knew them. And they were like, you got to check this cat out. He's hot. And they told me make a demo. So I made a remix demo from Lean Back. And I created Chi-Town Gangsters within about an hour and 40 minutes. I made that song. I thought, what can be hot? What can we do? What's catchy? Thought about Walk With Me. You know how it has all the black gangs and whatnot. And I said, what about the Latinos? You know what I'm saying? Where are we at? And I started writing all the names down of all the gangs I can. I made the beat. I found it's a sample. I actually still have the original song. And found the sample. My cousin and me made the beat. We didn't really have a studio. It was crazy how we recorded, but we made the beat. I started just writing quick. We got to get this demo quick. We made it. I dropped it. We didn't have a studio, like I said. We had a regular mic. We had a box over my head with padding around it, and I'm singing it. So we laid down the verse, and we did everything in the city where it's do or die. We did all that, and we were just like, it's missing something. It's missing something, and I'm just like, I'm listening to the bass line, and my cousin just goes, whoa, 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 and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I'm like, let's record this. Put the box back over my head. And we made it. We tweaked it up. We listened to it. We were like, wow, this is exciting. Met the guy, the A&R at the time. I forgot his name. We say, here, check it out. So he hears the first remix song. He hears it real quick. Then he goes, you hear him listen to it for like 40 seconds. He goes to the next song. He has a system in his car. All you hear is when the shit drops, he gets through maybe the second verse in the middle, jumps out the car wilding. Oh my God, this is it. That shit is hot. Damn, oh my God, I'm gonna get you signed. This is it, right? So we're like, yeah, I'm thinking I'm young. So anyways, he takes it to his CEO. His CEO says, the cat's hot, but I don't think this is what we're looking for right now. But they kept me around. I hanged around with them. I met more stars, this and that. The story about that song going out like wildfire, I used to sell weed and throw little parties in my apartment. So these two little cats from the neighborhood came over. Yo, Kilslo, what do you got? What do you got? I said, check this out. The whole party was wilding out, right? So we're getting messed up, whatever. I'm like paying no attention to it. These two little fuckers grab a CD, take it to Juarez, and the next thing you know, it was everywhere. And I didn't know about this till later on. I mean, because I wasn't thinking about social media. I was out there still hustling, just trying to make money. I didn't, know what YouTube was, etc. But it just blew up. Like, I found out when one cat was like, when they said Kilslo, he was like, dude, you Kilslo? And I was like, yeah. He's like, bro, that song on YouTube. Oh my God. I'm like, what the fuck is YouTube? And, I eventually see it. And, cause I didn't make the video. Some cat made the video. And, I just saw it and I was like, oh shit. And it just blew up. And then the MySpace days, once my friend threw me on social media, it was just on fire. And that's where it just basically kicked off. And I was like, I got to run with this. And I did. I ran with it. I performed it. I got paid for it. I made a pretty penny off of it. I made a lot of stars to it. But it was just nuts on how quick. And it's amazing. And thank you, everybody, on how long it's still going. I mean, to this day, I go places and people are like, oh, you did that. I mean, we look a lot grayer and older. But, even some young cats are like, you did that? Oh, shit. And sometimes I get embarrassed by it, you know what I mean? Because, you just think, wow, but at the same time, you wish you would have did more, which I did, but it just didn't catch the same fire as that. But, you know, when people say, Kill, don't you wish you made it? I tell them, yeah, I did. I'm alive. I got a house. I made a killing off of it. And, I'm still here and it's still going. So thank you all for that. But yeah, I did make it.
When the song was released, did you ever expect it to ever get as big as it did?
No, I did not. Honestly, I did not. It tripped me out when my friend put the real Chi-Town Gangster on it on MySpace. The next day he called me. He didn't want to tell me. He's like, "Come over." I get over there. I'm like, "What's the business? What's good?" I didn't want to run this shit. I let him run it. He was like my fan club prez. All right, but it went from 0 to about 2,500 in one day, one night. Like literally everybody started friend requesting and, asking, "Oh my God, was this you?" etc. "Oh, I got this song," and it was on everybody's page. So I never expected it. And, it just blew up. But no, I never expected it. Even to this day, like I said, I never expected it to even be still remembered as it is. And to me, it feels like it represents, I mean, when you get older, you understand why I say this, but, representing Latinos kind of in a bad way, but it still represents, what we're surrounded by, what we see, what we did at the time. So, bad or good, it did surprise me in how much it blew up. I actually heard people in Europe were playing it, people in Japan were playing it. So, I mean, I wish I blew up more than that, but, you know, um, but yeah, it really did throw me off. I'm still shocked to this day.
So in this song, you mentioned gang names and gang neighborhoods. Have you ever had any of them approach you, and what was it like when they approached you?
Uh, what's crazy is that you would think they would be like, "What you is this and that," but it was more like fan shock. They would come up to me, even after a show, and there's actually an episode GTV 19 where I performed the song, one of the rare captures of it, and the crowd goes wild, and they all start fighting at the end. Go figure, right? But when people come up to me, they were always like, "Man, dude, man, that's the hit, that's the lick. Man, we used to do this to that, we used to do that." I'm like, "Oh God," I heard some stories, but never negative in a bad way. It almost felt like I mentioned, like they felt represented, in the right way, in a way, I guess. But they felt like, wow, I was mentioned, and of course with the song being as popular and big as it was, I guess they felt good with their name being involved in that, right? That was me, like watching the Chicago Street TV and being number 4. I loved it. I was honored. Thank you, but always in a positive way it felt. I never had bad repercussions on that song.
Have you ever had like the CPD or any of these police groups ever come up to you?
You know what? Never, never. Honestly, I actually had a couple of police fans. It's
Oh,
weird,
wow.
Latinos mainly, but I did have some. I had some people that were actually had family that were cops, and they would take pictures with me. It was hilarious. But I've never had no backlash from the song. I literally never had no backlash from the song. I mean, knock on wood. To this day, it's always been like I don't know. It just felt like like I was accepted from the Latin community, that I made something for them, and but never no negative backlash from cops or anything. Yeah, so I believe that when it dropped, it was around that time where the two kids kind of took it and bootlegged it. YouTube dropped it, I think, a year afterwards. Somebody made a video to it, and I just never, I never jumped on that, making a video to it. But I believe it was in like 2005. I believe we made it.
And so during this era around 05, 06, or when you started rapping, how did the Latino rap scene in Chicago look during the time?
Well, I mean, back in the days when I started rapping, it was way, way before this. But the scene at the time, Wicked Entertainment was kind of doing their thing, and I do mostly remember like Los Marihuanos, Disco. I mean, we had other rappers as well. I mean, I remember MC Soul, Little Reap. Um, I remember a lot of hip hop groups, like underground hip hop groups. I can't get off the top of my head. And of course, Quinto Soul was kicking off doing their thing too as well. So Payback Garcia, shout out to them. They're still doing their thing, So I remember them cats the most. But we were trying to build. Well, me and G Nut at the time were trying to get on that scene. We had things to do, but for the most part, I remember them kind of most. I mean, if you're talking about Chicago, that's what I remember most of it.
And you had mentioned earlier that you were also a DJ. Do you want to elaborate on when you started and what it is today?
Yeah, I technically still do that to this day in a way, but again, my cousin learned to DJ at a young age. I was like 12 going into high school, something like that. He already had taught me how to DJ Technique 1200s. A lot of cats don't know that shit nowadays. Records, vinyls. But he used to take me to these daytime parties in the basement. And I was still young, barely macking the girls, and he used to mack them, So he would be like, "Hey, kid, why don't you DJ for a little bit?" And I would tear it up, man. I had the whole party jumping, classic old school house. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to CZR. You know what I mean? But that I learned to DJ at a young age, and one thing I never learned to do was scratch, but I DJed at a young age, and it was something besides rap music that I've always loved to this day. I think I love that more than I love rap music because I still do that strongly, you know. Plus, it pays more nowadays. So, but that's when I started when I was about 10, 11.
So during that time, what was the Latin DJ scene out here in Chicago?
Jesus, again, you got CZR, you got the Hot Mix 5, you got, you know, DJs such as Telly, Caveman, Julian Perez, and of course other DJs on the radio, but like off the top, Latin wise, them are the cats that I do remember the most.
I had seen footage on YouTube that you actually had been interviewed on Power 92. You want to talk about your experience when you're in the radio station?
Yeah, they welcomed me with open arms. It was crazy. We're kind of trying to rebuild off of Chi-Town Gangsters and show them something different. We had a song with Sochi that I actually found online. I found her because I was looking for a singer for a song called "As Long as We Ride." I got the beat from a guy out in Boston that was a fan, and he had dope beats. So send me a beat. Found the singer. I wrote the song. We recorded it at Urban Grind TV. I used to be a host on Urban Grind TV. A shout out to Wally. I love you, baby. We recorded there. We put it there. Talked to Shondell. He was barely starting the show that he's doing now. Shout out to Shondell, baby. Nice shirt. That's what he used to say. But he was starting off, and we were like one of the first. I was like one of the first artists to be showcased on there. So we rocked there. They brought us out, showed us mad love. They played our song for over a month or something, a couple of months actually. I think it was the whole summer it was playing. We wish they caught more fire. People did like it, they heard it, but again, we wish they caught the fire of Chi-Town Gangsters. But it was a beautiful experience. Also, it was featured on 103.52 for a summer due to mixing Pump Boy Lee. He became a fan, and he's still DJing to this day. And he actually, played our song in a mix. So we were actually on 2 radio stations at that time. Not too many people know that, but it was a blessing because for that whole year, me, Sochi, Phenomenal, I see you, baby. We were out there doing this shows constantly. Like that was the business. And I was actually with Street King Records at the time when I released that song. And I'll shout out the street. I see you. But it was a very fun, crazy time. I hardly got no sleep, you can tell. But yeah, that experience was great.
Was Chi-Town Gangsters ever played on the radio that you know
I don't think it would be able to.
of?
You would hear, let's take a little trip to the, where you can throw out the teeth, shot time with the teeth, don't live with the teeth, you know what I mean? I mean, that song was more just, it was made for the streets.
Right.
It was grown in the streets, and it would never be on the radio. I can't see it on the radio.
When I was on your YouTube channel, I saw that you had footage that you were part of a set for Chicago Fire, the TV show. Do you want to talk about the experience and how all that happened?
Yeah, there's a song on my YouTube as well. It's called My Town. There was a guy named Shoot the Director. I met him. He was doing Gangland, doing the reenactments. He needed some people, grabbed me. I grabbed some people. We went. I did about 8 episodes of Gangland. Now with these things, they can't never show your face. So here I am on the camera like this, trying to get myself seen. But with that being done, it led to going to Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, and most of the times it was just extras. After I've done that, I've seen a lot of guys on it. It's like, I feel sometimes there's a lot of things I've done that open doors for other artists to get on it, and it amazes me. You know what I mean? I never get the credit for it, but I always remember of me being the first to do that. So yeah, it was great. It made me want to go further on that, And shout out to my guy AR. He got on that, and he's doing bigger things. And my hat's off. I wish I would have dedicated myself to something like that, because that was another thing that I wanted to do, was act. Unfortunately, I'm too short and too ugly, so But it was great. It was also a great thing that is on my resume. It's something that I can tell my kids and share stories.
So you had mentioned some of the artists that you listened to growing up. So what type of music or artists is it that you listen to nowadays?
Well, you know what? It's hard because you think artist wise. I mean, you grow up in an era, and it's hard to leave it. With the music nowadays, I don't dislike it. I did dislike how it's not talking about things, how it's not trying to positively do things at times. Now, don't get me wrong, Chi-Town Gangsters, but if you were to go into a lot of catalogs of my music, you would find that I actually talk a lot about positive things. But growing up, I mean, again, I mentioned a lot of DJ and stuff, so I was listening to freestyle, classic houses in my heart, old school hip hop, Tupac, my favorite rapper of all time, Biggie, second. So, Nas, part of that crew. And then, Eric B. and Rankum. You got a lot of them. Fat Joe, Big Pun. These guys are part of that. Also with the underground era, a lot that I can't get, in my head right now. But shout out to Sub T's, still going strong. I remember I used to go there and freestyle too and shit, which, they're still doing it. So shout out to the crew over there. But now growing up, I'm kind of a little still stuck in that era. But I mean, Lil Wayne, Drake, them are some of the artists I kind of like. A little Uzi Vert. I like a couple of songs from him. I've always, if it's popular, it kind of tends to stick to me. When I meet these young kids and I just hear something, I'm like, okay, I never heard this before. Again, I'm more like radio. As a DJ, you have to listen to the radio and hear what's popping so you can play it out there. But as far as that goes, that's kind of the music and era I'm growing up to, and still to this day enjoy.
So earlier you had mentioned that you grew up in these rough neighborhoods. Have you ever been arrested?
Yeah, several times.
Have you been to Cook County Jail?
Yeah, several times. You know what? One time was really bad. I almost would have went down for something, real heavy, but eventually they couldn't make something stick, and I dodged that bullet. Not major, but I would have probably did some time in the pen if I didn't tough it out. When I grew up, loyalty, keeping your mouth shut was the main thing. And to this day, I still kind of feel like that. Even though things change, but being in the county, the first time I went, I think I was 18 years old, and I was scared shitless. I'm not gonna lie. I'm surrounded by these guys. You're 9 hours jumping from cell to cell to cell. You got gang members. You got dope fiends crapping on themselves, throwing up. They're giving you these sandwiches. Luckily, I grew up rough, so I can eat their sandwich and it'll feel like a Subway to me. But so being in there, it was rough. Then you get on deck, and it depends on where you're at. 2 was like low, and I've been there before. Big, kind of worse, but whatever. And you go up to like 10. I've made it to 10, and that was more secluded, more gladiators, you could say. Again, when I got to a higher deck, I met my friend Lunacy that just passed away recently. Love you, Lunacy, all the time, baby. He was a fan. He knew people I knew. He took me under. A Saint was a fan, And what's crazy is one of the guards was a fan of mine, took me down, gave me some fresh food. I snuck it in on deck. I was like, yo, Say, yo, D, come on, we eating good. They cooking and shit on making the stove out of the bench. So we ate good that day, but in county was crazy because I haven't made the song yet. So the first 2 times I've been in there, it was rough, but I kept my own. I kept, I was what I was, and I kept to my ground. And the first time was scary. The second time was like, man, I'm gonna go to sleep. So I knew what was going on. Like the third, fourth time, it was like already, and that was around the time where Chi-Town Gangsta had dropped. Did short time, no more than the longest was like 6, 7 months. But by that time, it was like, this is the man. I was like a celebrity in a way. So a lot of people were like, man, that's him. Yo, what's up? What's up? And they would show me love. Again, it goes back to the question you said about the gangs. Would they ever come at you wrong? No, these guys were like holding me up. I mean, literally, they're like, and one guy's, when I'm literally throwing a concert, on the table and shit. So I did 2 of them in jail. But it was pretty cool, you know what I mean? It's not cool, don't get me wrong, kids, But at that time, the experience was scary at first. Then it got nothing I ever got used to. But it was something that I had to deal with. But it taught me a lesson to where you miss the small things in life, so you never want to go back to that thing or go out there and make mistakes where things can be worse and you end up somewhere else for years. I know guys that are been 20 years, 10 years gone, and they're institutionalized, or they just don't learn because they've been there so long. To them, it's nothing to go back. But for me, it was never somewhere I wanted to be.
You want to let us know what is your top 3 Mexican restaurants or taco joints?
Oh, man. Oof. That's hard. Because I got to find a place and like it. I know one of them is an Ogden and Pulaski. I don't know if they changed, but it's a little taco joint. But these guys make it great. They put the cheese in. And then there's one more that does it like that over there by Blue Island and Damon.
Raymond?
Raymond's, there you go. You see, you know it too. They put the cheese in the middle. I'm a cheesy guy. And then, you know what? I'm good with taco now, so I like that too. I can do that. But them are like the ones I'll stick to. If I really get, I want a taco, I'll go there and take care of that. Yeah. Now they know where to find me.
So you've been involved in as far as like music and media for about like basically over 20 years now.
Wow.
Do you still make content, or you have any upcoming projects?
I've been asked to before for features and all that. I kind of stopped doing that. I'll do it for close friends I know. Shout out to Infamous D. I see you, baby. People I know. I wish I could do a lot more saying that. But I tend to stay away from it now. I kind of grew out of that era. Do I miss it? Yeah, I miss it a lot. Do I get, encouraged? not by today's music too much, but me and my guy Negro, I didn't forget you, Negro. We actually did content before he went away, but he's back out and he's like, let's do it. So you just might get some new stuff, but people just know, like when they know Kilslo, they're like, we're always gonna remember Chi-Town Gangsters, and it seems to overshine anything else I do. It almost feels like they feel I can't do better than that, which in my eyes I always felt I could. But as far as new content, you never know. But I'm not like looking for anything to do. Shows as well. I've been asked to do plenty of shows, but it comes to the point where people are trying to fill small places up and put me up on there. And if I'm not making money or they are, and it's small, it's not nothing I want to go back down to unless I really feel I want to. And lately I have not wanted to. I'm at a point in my life where I'm just living it, got my kids, seeing them grow, living a normal life. I made money off that song, and I'm very content at where I'm at right now. Like again, when people say you ain't mad, you made it, I did. And when people say you're a one-hit wonder, I tell them this: I'm still one hit ahead of you. So with that being said, that's where I'm at with that.
Can you let the fans and the audience know where it is that they could follow you on social media?
This is what I'll tell you. Google Kilslo. I'm the only one. And everything will pop up. They even got songs still on that my old album, Street King Records, that we did with Street King Records, put out there. It's on Apple, it's on that, which I don't see nothing. But I am going to end up putting together a greatest hits album that I believe are my best songs, and I'll be putting it out there probably by this summer. And Chi-Town Gangsters will be one of them. Even though, you guys got it, you can always purchase it again. But as far as that goes, just Google Kilslo, Kilslo, that type of fellow. Yo, we can't leave without that Chi-Town Gangster snippet, man. Chicago Street TV, baby. Latinos, this one's for you. Eating cereal straight with the pranksters, reminiscing on imperial gangsters. Watch out, cause the brothers are shaking. Stash it up, back rolling toilet paper. Brown pride, cause Brown won't die. Don't admit it, but Brown run the shot. Kill slow, let the hood, so I thank ya, cause I roll with the Chi-Town Gangsters. Yeah, I see you, Rich, baby.